Welcome to another week, another episode of IBG Weekly. I am your host and founder of Iron Blood Games, Achila, and today I am joined by Stany.
Hey guys, what's up? Stany. Yes.
Awesome. The rest of the folks are actually busy doing fun stuff, I guess.
It's fun for you, not for us.
But first, before we start off everything, we'd like to say thank you and hope you enjoyed. We've had over 500 downloads on Contortion, so thank you for everyone who downloaded it and played it. We read all your comments. We can see that there is a lot of interest, intrigue, and confusion in equal parts, and that's awesome because that's exactly the kind of experience Stany wanted to give.
Yes, true.
Yeah, so we're really excited that this 2-week project that we just slapped together actually made this much interest on the itch.io community, and it's really fun seeing their reactions and videos that they've made. It's an awesome experience for us. We're fans of you guys, all pretty much.
We are also taking every comments and your thoughts into our consideration.
Yes.
We are like very grateful that you guys actually tried it, and seeing that for the first time, it's another feeling.
Yeah.
It's once in a lifetime kind of feeling watching our project being played by other players
and getting to hear their feedback and what they think. So regarding our next project, we have made some breakthroughs this week. We have managed to complete a base foundation prototype, and we were going to test it in-house until we realized we really needed to put one more feature in before we can give it to the hands of the rest of the team and get a good old fun couple of matches going on. So we will probably be completing this base system over the weekend. Basically what we've managed to get is all our multiplayer matchmaking is pretty much done. It works as expected. We got a base core gameplay loop going on for one of the game modes, and the most recent, like couple of minutes ago, I got confirmation from our tech lead that the tracking. So the base mechanics are done. We needed to we have a system basically that allows us to fire on our enemies, and the problem was that we weren't taking into account that the targets are moving, so we needed some kind of leading system to get integrated into the automatic aiming and firing system, and it's currently working. It's great news, and we're moving on to putting as many of the other features as possible for our first prototype build, and then we will pretty much do an in-house test, and from that we are hoping to create a reveal trailer. So stay tuned, and hopefully very soon you guys will get to see what we've been exactly working on and what kind of game it's going to be. It's pretty exciting stuff.
I'm very excited because I have no association with that project, but I can't wait to get my hands on it. So this is kind of huge, hearing this from what's been going on. These guys been quiet for I don't know, man, for 4 or 5 months right now, and this is what I'm hearing right now after that long period of time.
Yeah, there was a long period of research and development that we needed to do. We needed to figure out how we were going to go about creating a lot of this stuff. But that discussion, we will explain that stuff in another podcast after we've initially revealed the trailer, our process, how we got to that stage. And I'm hoping that it will open the eyes to other starting indie developers, how to go about the design process of making a game. If you're really serious of making a successful game, there is certain steps you need to take, and it does take time, and we'll talk about that later. So we still don't know even if our game's going to succeed, but the way it's going currently, the project is succeeding. So it's really nice seeing that development.
Good.
So the topic for today is actually nothing to do specifically in relation to news in the games industry. We thought we'd discuss about the games development and indie games development and what we can bring to the table in terms of advice and things we figured out in our fields. So I'm mainly a designer and Stany is a writer. So we thought we'd just discuss like what we've learned, what we've observed, and this is in context with Sri Lanka's game development scene as well. So we're just going to go about what we learned from that and what we decided to go with and how we decided to approach things. And of course, Stany is going to talk about the things he's learned about writing and tips and tricks on writing successful scripts and all that. I guess I'm pretty interested in learning that stuff from Stany along with you guys. So shall I start?
I think you should go first. Yeah.
All right. So I've been interested in the games development industry ever since I picked up my interest in games. And what I paid attention to was what all those major industries would do and their processes in ideation of their games and how they put it all together. But the main thing you always need to consider is that you're not a big company and you don't have all the resources these companies have. So where do you start? Well, as a designer, what I did was I looked into myself, and the most successful way you can go about creating your first game is don't look at the industry and see what they're doing and then like try to make something out of that. More like look into yourself and think about what game would you like to play and that the game industry hasn't been catering to. And when you figure that out, you will slowly start to realize that you can create a stronger set of ideas for your game, and specific mechanics will become easier for you to come up with. And that's how I came up with. Actually, I had to dial down my initial idea because everything needs a step. So my main idea, and this is like going to be spoilers for 10-15 years in the future if someone like reads into this podcast from way in the future, hi. But what I wanted, the game I want to make, right, at like my ultimate game is like a sci-fi experience, planetary scale, Gundam, and big space fleets, but on ground fighting. It's like PlanetSide, but more. I just like I like sci-fi and heavy fantasy, right? So I decided I want to go into either fantasy or sci-fi, but the fantasy side, I don't have your kind of writing skills. But when it comes to sci-fi, I kind of like have a deeper connection to it, so it's easier for me to come up with stuff. And I had a huge boner for mechs.
So too much information.
Yeah, so I want that feeling of power you get, when you're controlling a powerful mech. But I want to at the same time have like the experience given to what would the foot soldier that's running alongside or fighting against these hulking mechs would also go through. And it's kind of a game that I want to make that kind of melds those two experiences and gives this
something like Titanfall and Call of Duty, like
yeah, except it's not totally like the skill isn't on Twitch reflexes. It's more about like your tactical knowledge and how you approach a fight and all that.
Yeah, how
So
strategic something
yeah,
like how the
yeah,
player
yeah.
explore. Yeah, that's
And
actually
but I realized that's a pipe dream. You can never reach that at the stage that where I'm in. So
you never know.
yeah, I mean that's where I'd like to get to. So I dialed it down, and the next step down was like this arena combat with mechs, and it was like it's like Blood Bowl or that movie. What was the movie called? Thunderdome.
Which one?
The Thunderdome
Thunderdome. Oh yeah.
from yeah, it's like an experience like that, except you guys are like professional mech pilots, and you guys kind of for the
Something cinematic.
yeah, it is cinematic, and it's really exciting. And then I like pitched that idea while I was in Slit with my friends, saying, "Look, I want to do something like this. We'll make this, then we'll move on to the next one." And they were like, "That's cool, dude. That's really cool." And those two guys who were saying that was Bhupati and Shehan. And then after that we were trying to like design it, and we realized actually we need like next level art skills, to create these assets. And whatever assets we were going to make right now, the level of skill we have, we'll never be able to reach the kind of visual output we want to give for that game. And so I was like, okay, our skill level is pretty much zero. So what do we do now? And then I dialed it back yet again. And then I designed a very simple game that maximum four people can develop all the way through to the end. And it has the capability of getting a large amount of revenue. It has the potential for that. And at the same time, the theme was still based on sci-fi, but another aspect of my end game vision, right? Which was fleet battles and large scale spaceship fights. But I thought I'd like to bring it to mobile, because we can then like make the visuals look a lot more it's interesting, but it's not as complex as if you were to make the visuals for a PC game, because you can keep it in a stylized theme, basically. And that's my advice for people, is like always dial it down to the resources you have at hand. Make it a game that the people you have, like either it's yourself or you have a core team of maybe 3-4 people. Make sure if that's it, then you need to, whatever game idea you come up with, it needs to be able to be completed by those 4 people. If in the development process you might get like 6, 10, 15 people in the future, but you need to always make sure that even if those people came or left or whatever, these 4 people are capable of bringing it through all the way to the end and shipping and marketing the game. And that's what I need to like stress for people
establish.
It's very important that you understand what you can do and what you can't do. It's all
we
very
really
well
need
and
to
good.
we really need to press the point that what we are really capable of, and
Exactly.
look away to extend it.
Yeah. So the whole idea is finding your skill level and then building up upon it until you reach that final vision. And that this is the road we're on. And while we're on this road, of course, Stany came. Then we had like other people who came and went. And at the end of the day, this project never changed or never had to be abandoned, because we set the scope and scale for the game that we made to be able to be completed by the people that are at hand. So it doesn't matter if we get more or less or people left, we can still complete the game.
That's good.
And so that's what I have to say for now. I have a few more other things, but I think it's best we ask from Stany regarding writing.
It is pretty interesting what you said, actually. Coming to think of it, it's I think for for the most part, I really thought that we writers had the hardest job compared to everything, because we literally had to fill an empty blank paper and just, and we have to do something about it. And, you know, like every writer has their own set of, process to write a story. And this is fine. Some might say that it's, surrealist and, it's weird. That's against the rules, what I'm doing. But, when it comes to writing or every other field, there are no set of rules. If you set a rules, this is how you're going to do it, it's never going to be made into whatever that is. So I think that my initial process before, let's just say, I want to write a story on a World War II, something like that. What I would do is, even if it's like a fictitious, or if it's a true story, non-fiction, what I would do is I would literally research, even before I have a, even before I plan or draft, this is how the story is going to be, these are the characters. I wouldn't do that. What I would do is I would just sit on my computer, I would research, and just, it doesn't matter how long it takes, I just, read, search, I talk to people regarding, I just go to Reddit or Facebook groups regarding, the theme that I'm tackling. And then I'd sit down to, talk with Jose in this case, because I've known Jose for like 3 years right now. So what I would do is I would just engage in a conversation with Jose and just bounce it around back, my ideas back and forth, and it'll just initially narrow down to something. And that's when you have a solid idea on how it's going to be. So basically, research plays a huge part if you want to convince your audience. Okay, when I said that it's going to be like World War II, I really need to convince my audience this is World War II, and I need to, the world needs to be on point in that regard. So after research phrase is completed, then I can move to creating story or characters or whatever I want. So basically, I also have an advice for young writers out there. Don't, whenever you are writing characters, don't write characters like yourself or others. First of all, that's the first rule. So the second rule is actually don't give any traits to your characters. You never know how the story is going to turn out. For an example, now, kind of Game of Thrones is like kind of getting a backlash, right?
Backlash, yeah.
Yeah, so basically what happened was these guys literally gave out, for an example, for Daenerys or Tyrion or any other characters, they like, they gave out certain character arcs. So this is how the character is. This is how the character is. So they kind of portrayed, for an example, I'm going to be, so I'm sorry if there's any spoilers, there's going to be spoilers, but I haven't watched any Game of Thrones season 8 yet, but this is what I've gathered. So basically, this is how they portrayed Daenerys in the past 7 seasons, like this, kind of Khaleesi, kind of motherly, kind of good character, right?
Yeah, all about honorable stuff.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, she's
in
all
the
about
end,
fairness and justice, I'd say. Justice, yeah.
And in the end, she goes off her path, and it pisses people off because at the beginning they gave out all these ideas saying that she's a good queen and yada yada, and in the end she didn't turn out to be good. But I didn't know that they intended it as like a sort of like a twist to the plot, but it doesn't work like that. So that's a good example why you shouldn't give out traits to your characters before you start writing them. So in the story regarding sense, you can use Dan Harmon as an example, the co-creator of Rick and Morty. That guy just sleeps through his whole day and he doesn't push himself to write. He writes whenever he can. So, this is not a thing that you can do it like a task. So, not giving characters a trait. So that's a good idea for the young writers out there on why they shouldn't give out character traits in the beginning and just start writing it. Because once you start writing it, so you will have the room for the character evolvement and whatnot and others. So yeah, don't write, don't decide how the character is going to be early on. Do that after you write the story. So another thing I want to really point out is that this is not a thing that you can do like a 9/11 job. It's something you have to do whenever you can, whenever you feel like it. So that's the one of the most part, like the challenges that writers come in. So basically, I'm gonna have to make an example of Dan Harmon, who's the co-creator of Rick and Morty. He just sleeps through his all day, and he only writes whenever he can. So that's why season four's delays. One of the reasons why season four delayed. So like this is, whenever you write, whenever you feel like it, that's when the actual story and your brain kind of starts exploding, and that's when the for your full potential, like your creativity kind of like starts to push in. So that write whenever you can, not like not don't like kind of like do it as a job. If you're doing it as a job, in my opinion, it's not going to be good as when you write whenever you feel like it. So ideas, most people really struggle from this part. I'd say ideas come to me like a TV screen inside my head. It's just like comes in like just put a kid and an elephant in World War II. That's how my ideas just come in into
Yeah.
my head, and then I start kind of elaborating that those elements that came into my head. I just started kind of playing inside my head what would happen if this kid kind of stumbles across World War II after atomic bomb or something like this. Just like these kind of words that starts popping into my head, and I just start taking them, and what I would do it, I would just take a book or a piece of paper, and I just start writing it whenever I can. I just start creating fake stories out of it. So that's how ideas are born. Ideas can be born either in a single line, or a story that you heard, or while watching a movie, or while watching a TV series, or while you are telling a story or anything. Ideas can be born anytime you want, but you have to be really careful if that idea sticks with you. A good idea always sticks with you. A bad idea doesn't stick with you after like a couple of days.
Yeah, that's true.
So make sure your idea really sticks with you. So that's all the information that I have for the young writers at this point. So my process is really weird. Like it's not in certain order. It's here and there everywhere. So I can't actually speak about a certain things in a line. So I just tend to go here and there, 3, 4, 6, 7, 8, like that. It's not in a certain order. So that's the advice I really have to give to young writers.
For any friends joining us from Sri Lanka who's thinking about getting into games, or maybe you're creating your own game, something I've realized in certain games that's set to come out is that the theme of the game isn't really solid. So whenever you make a game, always make sure that before you go on to making the game itself, please consider your theme. Is it sci-fi? Is it what time is it set in? Are all your assets planned accordingly? You can't have, for example, a futuristic character and and all your environment looks like from now,
I'd
present
like to
day. I mean, unless you give it context, like he's a time traveler, he's from the future,
I'd like to make another point as well.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how good your idea is. If you're making a movie, it falls under the category of film or a game. It all depends on the communication that you have with the team. So once you get an idea, once you narrow down how the draft of how your project is going to look like, you just need to have this sort of talk with your team and see what they're capable of. And after having that creative talk, you will be able to decide what creative decisions you as a writer need to make. So, and also, despite all this, you really need to consider, you really need to do a broad research on the audience. So basically what I did was I literally learned about Last of Us and the reception that it got. I literally had to learn about the audience and what they would like and what's the majority. And for an example, Achila said this sci-fi and something like that. So let's just say the sci-fi audience is like 60%, and the guys who like Last of Us is like 40%, and the majority is automatically like 60%. So what you need to consider is like, so we really need, if we tackle this 60%, we will have a base, and then we can go on creating something for the 40%. So you really need to make that decision on that point as a writer and take some risks.
Also, as a final bit of advice, what I would like to let people know, and this is for, yet again, I'm addressing if there are any Sri Lankan game developers watching this, is that when you make a game, your friends, and actually this is actually a broad thing, when you're making a game, your personal friends and family, they're going to say it's awesome, it's the most amazing thing, well done, brilliant, it's it's amazing. But
Yes.
always be prepared to be criticized and like open-minded that it is probably not going to be the best idea ever. Because, and always listen to the feedback you get from people who have no idea about you, no personal connections to you. That is more valuable actually than when you get it from a close friend, because your close friends would not want to hurt your feelings. They will consider that dynamic when they're giving you their feedback. And so like when you are also creating these games, make sure that the quality and the standard of your game actually meets the expectations of people from abroad. That's
Exactly.
where that's where your major income is going to come from. Their feedback matters a lot, and try to get that feedback as early as possible. When you have an idea, try to tease it, try to get the international community like engage with your idea, and just get the feedback you need from that, and then accordingly change or adjust your game experience to that. So yeah, that's about it. We are running out of time, and so thank you very much for tuning in. Stay tuned or check out our other episodes, and make sure to leave a like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit that bell icon, and share your thoughts on the comment section down below. This has been really great, actually, just talking about this. Next week, I guess we will talk about
Something, if there's anything.
yeah, I mean
yeah.
the news has been pretty stale in the games industry, unless you guys want us to be beating some pretty dead horses right now. So I mean, yeah, we don't want to get involved with things like what publishers might be doing, like Randy Pitchford and stuff. It's not stuff we'd like to comment on, because we don't know what's going on that set.
E3 is coming around the corner, so
we'll have a ton to talk about when that comes. So yeah, so see you guys next time. I'm Achila Rangamahotige,
and I'm Stany Fernando.
Good night.